Attention on deck!
Hi everybody, RMEP here for eXplorminate.net, and welcome to our preview of Stellaris with the new DLC Leviathans. Now, where we left off last time is we were going to kind of progress a little bit in trying to establish a federation with our newly found friends, who have been our, good buddies for quite some time. We are currently in what is now called the new mechanic, one second. I believe it's called Federation Associate Consideration. So that's what is happening here. I'm being considered for it. Unfortunately, due to some difference in war philosophies, I haven't been able to sneak my way into the Federation, but no matter. A couple of things that have just come up and I wanted to show you guys while playing the mid-game part is I was able to find a few more AI races, including some interesting lizard type creatures who love fanatic individualism. Seems to be a reoccurring theme. This is one portrait that I never ended up using, which I think is just awesome. It reminds me of like Venom from obviously the iconic villain to one Spider-Man. I mean, those poor space bears, man, they were probably just looking for some space berries. I wonder if they know the Bullrathi. Anyway, they ended up getting with some gross plague. And then you've got this dude who's obviously sporting some type of delicious goatee. I bet he's pretty, pumped, and pretty important on his home planet. So that being said, I've established some contacts. There hasn't been any all-out wars that I'm aware of. Everybody seems to be pretty happy of where they're at. I was able to also get my claws into the stagnant or the Keepers of Knowledge. The Keepers of Knowledge. This fallen empire has dedicated itself to hoarding the knowledge of all knowledge and technology. They may offer task or demand tribute from lesser empires to achieve this end. Interesting. That being said, haven't really spoken to him very much besides the initial contact. He told me to get out of his borders or he would destroy me. So that being said, I know that we were talking about trying to find two fallen empires. I'm glad even on a tiny map I was able to find two. You can see here on opposite sides. The only thing that's got me a little bit cautious is when you've got two fallen empires on both sides. If they do happen to both awaken at the same time, I'm going to be pretty much crushed right off the get-go because there's absolutely no buffer for me here in the northeast quadrant of this galaxy to stop them. I'm either going to hold the line or I'm going to run out of real estate and get crushed myself. I may have to just submit to them. Who knows? It may not even happen at all. I might get an endgame crisis and both the fallen empires will end up helping us out. Now, the main reason that I started to fire this video off was because I created my first sector. You can see here the white outline that has gotten two of my planets, and I've given them some different minerals to munch on. Now, what I have noted, or what I just opened this, or just completed this this sector, so I haven't had a chance to play around with it too much. We're gonna call this free thought, the free thought sector. The reason I'm doing that is because I want them to focus on scientific research. Now we're going to play around with the settings a little bit because I know that sector AI was one of those things that everybody wasn't too keen on. It either wasn't working very efficiently, or it wasn't working at all, or sometimes it was just straight up broken. Now unfortunately I haven't been able to dig into it enough to tell you one way or the other, but what I can show you is some of the ways that they've minimized the AI going off the rails and doing things that you'd never intended to do in your sector. I'm going to hit sector settings here, and you'll notice that I get 4 options. One of the things they did take away was the military option for sectors. That has been replaced with a balanced focus. This sector will balance its production of minerals and energy credits and research. And then you've got your standards that we've had from previous patches, which is industrial focus, research focus, and of course financial, which is our generating energy. Now, this is what I really enjoy right here, is it's giving you a lot of options to tell your sector and whoever's in the governor exactly what you want. So you're saying allow the purge of pops. And you'll say, well, are you going to allow this sector to do that or not? Will you allow to anybody to be enslaved? To build a military space station? Maybe you don't want them to do that. It'll just be a drain on their own economy. You could space construction, allow them to build such as spaceports, orbital stations, and ships, allowing them to colonize a sector. Now, I thought this was kind of interesting because this is something that I've never seen the sector system do this far. Is if I was playing on a large map perhaps, and I had just a huge swath of space, and I wasn't very interested in micromanaging it. Why not create a massive sector with 5 or 6 different planets that I was able to colonize, and then just let the sectors, the sector AI do it. Yeah, go ahead. So I thought that was really interesting. You've got the 2 previous options that you had before, which is perspectile resources and redevelopment, and you got build robots. So I'm going to keep that off for the time being. I think I'm going to allow them full restraint. I want to get them as much money as I possibly can. In fact, I might give them a couple $100 and some credits. Perfect. Now, one thing I didn't notice is that they took away this bonus. Yeah, it does. Apparently, if I want to remove a system change or mess around with anybody, I do have to pay that penalty of the 25 influence. I'm kind of swimming in influence right now, so it's not the biggest deal, but I just created that sector. I like the idea of calling it free thought. That's typically how I set up a lot of my sectors, is by calling them free thought or heavy economy or mining, and then I'll name them 1 through 5. That way I know exactly what it is that each sector is actually doing. Alright. Wow, okay. Your sickening species is definite proof the universe has a sense of humor. Wow, how could you possibly, look at this. How on earth could you say that I'm a sickening human being? Unless they eat giant starfish for breakfast or something, I don't know. Or they swim in their sewer systems, or... I can't imagine calling that little guy, that cute little dude. Look at him. I mean, can you imagine going to war with this, like seeing 5,000 or 6,000 of these things running over a hill, waving at you, winking at you with one of its 4 eyes, telling you hilarious jokes, asking you if you wanted Earth candy, and then just eating your face off? That's definitely made this a lot more fun to play around with, I'll tell you that, is the idea of these cutesy little guys being huge fanatical, tyrants of the universe. Okay, so that being said, we've kind of oh, and I think I was able to use the expansion planner while I was off screen too. It works exactly like you'd figure it would work off of Distant Worlds Universe. If you've played Distant Worlds Universe, you can pretty much say this expansion planner was cut directly from that and brought right into this system. And hey, I'm not going to say anything because it's a great system that Distant Worlds Universe has. If you haven't played that game, it's probably the only one that can come close to comparing these 2 games in terms of a 4X idea. Whereas Distant Worlds Universe is a massive open-ended, open world functioning economy extravaganza. It's a very deep and intricate game. But one thing it does do very well is it lets you automate certain things so you don't have to worry about it. It's one of its key points and key features and selling features. That being said, this is exactly ripped right from it, and it's not a bad thing. If you can't beat him, join him. That's what I say. So what I did when I went to colonize one of my planets is I found the one that I wanted, which was the one I just turned into the sector. Literally, okay, I found it. Let's use this as an example. I want to create from this colonizable world because my ethnic divergence is so high. Obviously, I'm not diverging at all from my base ethics, but I can pick any one of them. I click this button right here. It subtracts my minerals and you can see here I'm going to build my colonization hub. I click that and it's all automated. It does all of that for me. It was actually a nice treat because even though at this point I don't have a lot of planets that I can actually colonize, I have played games in the past where it was a monster. I had to definitely pay attention, and what's difficult is as far as I know, you can't really sit down and play a Stellaris game in one sitting, even 2, even 3. Some of these games can go on for a very long time. I've read forums on the official forums, people complaining about how, you know, they were playing a game for weeks and weeks and weeks in between patch 1.1 and 1.2, and oh, it looks like we've got a new Heir. Finish this point though. Yeah, so they had a game that they were playing for weeks on end. So I could imagine putting 20 or 30, 40 plus hours into a game and then find out that, of course, the next patch, you know, breaks it in some way that's irreparable. But that being said, if you were playing on a super large game, that expansion planner would be a lifesaver. Of course, I'm playing on a tiny map, so it's not as imperative, but I plan to play on a large or at least a medium map for my next playthrough, so I know I'll be loving it. Okay, that being said, we've got a new High Priestess. Let's see what she's all about. High Priestess Timophone is the new heir to our empire. I think she has a little bit of a color red. Maybe she's just blushing. Sorry about that, guys. I have been playing this game for I think about 10 hours straight, give or take an hour. So if I seem a little bit delirious, it's because I'm delirious with joy. Anyway, what's her ruling traits? She's got a space miner, less construction time and building costs, good. And ship costs and army costs go down. So she's a warlike cutesy, that's good. Right, well, I'll take it. So ground design, grain design, I've got 86 days left in that. Pragmatic lenses, my physic output goes up. Those are the two modifiers I have for my entire empire. Okay, that's not too bad. Alright, so we'll continue on with our journey into the game of Stellaris. I was kind of talking about this with a couple people at on the forums today, on our eXplorminate forums on Steam, about how, you know, there's some people that really seem to have a struggle with this game in terms of being able to enjoy it, or they have a hard time. That's not too bad, why not? And I think the reason that most people have a hard time with this transitioning, especially from a hard-coded, you know, a 4X game with, you know, a clear objective when it comes to winning the game, be it, you know, I want to win by domination victory, I want to win by, you know, diplomatic victory, I want to win by scientific victory or cultural victory, etc. You're often racing right under the clock. The clock's always against you. You're always making small, tiny decisions to make sure that your entire empire is running at peak efficiency at all time, with the idea that you're competing against a computer that's trying to do the exact same thing. And now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of great games that go through this format, and they're a ton of fun. I mean, for the most part, we all grew up with them if you're a 4X fan. But I get the funny feeling that's not how that Stellaris was designed to be played. And once I got out of that, because I had about 2 or 3 games where I'm like, wow, I like this game a lot, of different things about it, but there was, you know, there were some things that were inefficient about it. And having played 4X games for so long, you get swept into trying to identify these small inefficiencies and correct them so that you can be, of course, you know, the cat's meow on when it comes to winning these games. But unfortunately, this isn't the way that this is meant to be played. It's literally meant to be played almost like, you know, a grand strategy would. And I will admit I am brand new to grand strategy. Well, I might not be the best expert when it comes to this stuff, but I do know that the grand strategy idea is more of an experience. And that's how it kind of, once I stepped away from that and kind of looked at it from that perspective, I was like, that's exactly what I should be looking at right now, and how I should be playing this game is not something like, you know, something to be raced to the finish line and to be completed. It's more of an experience. And I'll tell you, this new DLC Leviathans really plays into that. If you were looking for something like a laundry list of different abilities to race towards the end, I think that you might be a tad disappointed. But if you were looking for more of a robust role-playing type experience with different avenues for grand strategy, you know, you're going to be really surprised, and you're going to be really happy with some of the changes they've made. Now, don't get me wrong, there's been a lot of changes in Heinlein 1.3 that has made this game a lot more enjoyable, a lot of quality of life improvements, obviously with you know, the sector improvements is going to be a big one. And even despite what I just said, you know, not to sound hypocritical, but they did add a new victory condition in. Okay, what do we got? Hydroponic farms 3, growth time. This is going to unlock adaptations. Oh, I'll do some gene splicing. And this kind of brings me to a point, before I get segued a little bit too far here, one of the victory conditions, and I'm pretty sure we showed this off, is that it offers a Federation victory, where if you win the game by having your Federation own 60% of all inhabitable planets. Now, that's still very difficult to get at the best of times, but it is another victory condition, right? But like I said, I was going back to the reason why I kind of enjoy Stellaris so much is that I started looking at it again through that different lens. And that lens was one more based off of an experience and a little bit of roleplay and enjoying myself, because the last game that I played, the very first one, when it came to this preview copy of Leviathans, I actually got crippled by that roaming band of space pirates, because they were more strong than they were in previous versions. Now, in any other game, if had I been playing, you know, an atypical 4X game, doesn't even need to be in space. I could have been playing Civ 5 or Civ 6 is just right around the corner. I probably would have just quit that game, because I knew that by getting crippled that early that I was done. There was no way I was going to be able to maximize my efficiencies to be able to compete with the AI, especially on higher levels. But instead of this one, I just, you know, I powered through it and realized it was part of the game. You know, there are times when I'm playing this game where empires will get crushed and then be liberated 100 years later and end up becoming powerful again. So it's absolutely fascinating to me, and you can definitely see that in this patch and in this DLC, this is the direction that Paradox wants to go with this game. They're not looking for you to be playing a game to race towards the end. They definitely want you to enjoy every road and every pit stop along the way. And then at the end of it, if you make it there at all, to say, hey, I had one hell of a journey, and that was worth it. It was even more enjoyable. The journey was more enjoyable than the destination. All right. So again, there hasn't been too much that's been going on. I keep bugging the Federation now that we're kind of diving back into the base mechanics of it. Still, my acceptance is 4. I wonder if I can try to bribe my way in. Let's see what the other race here, my Degel friends. Migration treaty, don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my space slugs. I don't even know, is that a slug? It honestly looks like some type of slug with an exoskeleton, like lives at the bottom of the sea. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to offer a trade deal, and we're going to see what we're at. Now, one thing I have noticed, and I really like, is if you remember back when you're playing this game in the previous versions, if I gave him 100 minerals, he wouldn't even scratch. It would be like acceptance maybe 1, but it could even be lower than that. What they've done is they've increased the value that the AI puts on minerals, like plus 20 for 500, which is 500 is nothing for me, but getting it to plus 20 of our acceptance is huge. So I'm going to give that as a friendly gift. Pause it, see what he has to say. Oh, what do we got here? Swirling shadows, immense ragged plains of shadows drift across this planet's face. They are cast not by clouds, by sheets of organic material drifting through the upper layers of the atmosphere, hinged or rather jointed to allow a small degree of articulation. Science officer has yet unwillingly to say if these things are flora or fauna, or possibly or for what possible purpose, if any, their elaborate shadow casting might serve. It is interesting. Okay, so you accept it? Of course you do. What a grand gift I just gave you. 500 minerals. Now let's see if that bribe was enough to get me in, because if I know anything about American politics, it should be. Oh, come on. Distance. It really does look like I'm going to have to change my war status if I'm going to go on in there. It's not like I want to start a war by myself, but I'd love to be part of that Federation. You know what? I might shift gears a little bit here. I was really pining to try to get into this Federation just because it's something they haven't done, and I want to see how the mechanics play out, obviously, with the alliance system being done. But I think what I might do is I might actually go right after this guy. His fleet power is superior. In fact, I think that's what we're going to do. I don't even know if I can actually take colonize any of his planets. I think he lives on an arid type planet system. Yeah, desert. I wouldn't even be able to do it, but I would be able to show off some of the different factions, how they react to being, destroyed by a cute little starfish. We'll see how the next couple, a couple of decades play out. But either one or two things are going to happen when you see me in this next video. Either one, I'm going to be going to war with the Empire of the Junka, or I'm going to be in a peaceful coexistence federation with my good old buddies from the Tijel and the Hanak. Okay guys, so I just was able to show you off a little bit of the expansion planner, a little bit of internal politics, a side note of why I like Stellaris, and of course the new sector system, which I will kind of just periodically report on to you and keep you apprised of how the AI is doing and managing, especially when it comes to managing a science sector. Okay everybody, this has been Army P for eXplorminate.net, and I'll see you next time.